What's going on? What's going on, everybody? It is Will here. This is the only sports podcast. That's right, the only sports podcast. Like I just said, I am Will, and usually Casino joins me, but that is just on Mondays, Wednesdays, and some Fridays. Most of the time, it is just me, and that is what is happening today. It is the solo show as we talk about the divisional round of the playoffs, some of the other NFL news. So, without further ado, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for listening. As always, like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Also, we've started putting video up on Spotify. So, if you want to see my beautiful shaven face or my dumpy face, however you want to clarify it or classify it, yeah, check us out, video or audio, now available on Spotify. We always had the audio, now I'm putting up videos, so there you go. But as always, on Fridays usually we do the power rankings, but how are we going to do power rankings in a divisional round? We can instead do the power rankings through the power of the Super Bowl bubble. So let's get into it, because my Super Bowl bubble— oh, and you know what? Actually, let's put up the picture. The Super Bowl bubble is a thing on this show we've been doing for, I believe, 2-3 years at this point. I think this show— I always forget how old this show is. Actually, what is it? Let me look. Our very first episode was in 2022. September 2022. So obviously we're in 2026. That doesn't count. So 2025. So yeah, we've been doing it for 3 years. I believe our first Super Bowl bubble was 3 years ago, or maybe 2 years ago. I really should check that, but honestly, I don't care. But we've been doing it for a couple years, and then Colin Cowherd saw it, was like, oh my God, that's such a great idea. I'll just do the exact same thing. And again, what is it? More power to him. Because why would you steal from guys with millions or thousands of followers when you can steal from people with a couple hundred followers, and then nobody's none the wiser. So when it comes to the Super Bowl bubble, again, when I was making it earlier, I was like, I obviously took out all the teams that were eliminated, but I also— and we'll pull it up on the screen right here. I also was like, who do I legitimately not think can win the Super Bowl? Right? Like, who is a team that— oh, and we're getting some comments. But I looked at this and I said, what is it? What are the teams I legitimately do not think right now are the Super Bowl, caliber teams? So if you want to, say that I'm a hater of these teams, go right ahead. But I do feel like I have ample reasoning for why, if you're just listening. So the only 3 teams in the playoffs currently of the 8 teams that I have outside of the bubble itself is— I do think that in the NFC, you got 2 teams, and that is the 49ers and the Bears, strictly for the fact that, again, I do not like the 49ers. I have obviously said the issues I have with the Bears. But oh, sorry, I'm just moving this right here. There we go. Oh, that's not going to work. But yeah, the issues I have with the Bears and 49ers are very simple. Their defenses. Again, their defenses— 49ers are just injured. And again, we've talked about this a million times on this show. They just lost everybody that made this defense good. I mean, most of them for some reason went to the Broncos, and now that Broncos defense is what, first or second in the league? It's second in the league in total defense. Gaming with Hodder says hi. What's up? What's going on? But yeah, so when it comes to the defense, now again, the polar opposite of the 49ers and Bears defense is the Texans on the other side, because right now the Bears finished as the 29th ranked defense in the NFL. The 49ers finished with 20th ranked defense in the NFL, which again, Bears are number 1 in turnover differential. So the thing with the Bears is if they don't get turnovers, you can put up 40 points on them, which again, the 49ers did. What, didn't they win that game 42-38 or something insane like that? So in a shootout, the Bears can put up points. So if it wasn't a shootout, then that becomes a thing where it becomes what is it? That becomes the issue, which is the Bears can win shootouts, but if it becomes a defensive battle, they're not going to stand shoulder to shoulder with literally anything. Gaming with Otter says, I do not know anything about football. Well, then you came to the right place, buddy, because we're the only sports podcast. We should honestly change our name to the only football podcast because that's really all we talk about. But that's the sport, obviously, that's dominating the United States. Casino and I's favorite sports. So that's why we talk mostly about sports. But if I was doing a ranking, which I did think I would do the ranking, because obviously I always do 1 to 32. So now you can only do 1 to 8. I would have the 49ers at 8, which again is more embarrassing to my team because my team, the Philadelphia Eagles, lost to that team. So they lost to the worst remaining team in the playoffs. But I will have that cross to bear because I do think the 49ers right now are the worst team left in the playoffs, especially after losing their arguably after McCaffrey best offensive player in George Kittle. So they just lost Kittle for, I mean, this season, most of what is it? Probably not most of, but probably the start of next season as well. That's always the thing that sucks about that. The double thing that sucks about players getting injured in the playoffs is now it's in jeopardy if they can even start the next season playing football. But George Kittle's a tough guy. I'm sure he'll be out there week 1 and speedy recovery. So Brianna B7691 says, I play football before. I don't know what that means. And then Game with Hotter says, what's your favorite football team? Mine is the Philadelphia Eagles, the team that got their ass kicked by the 49ers last week. So again, I think I'm over it. There is the good news of they get a new offensive coordinator. There's all these weird reports coming out like there always is. So I think I'm finally ready to move past the Eagles in the 2025-2026 season and look forward to the 2026-2027 Eagles. But as of right now, I would put the 49ers at 8. I would put horses for life. HH says, let's go 49ers. I mean, yeah. I don't think, again, I just think they're the worst team in the playoffs right now because of how bad their defense is. And then offensively, again, without Kittle, it's just going to have to be the Christian McCaffrey show, which I would say would work if they weren't playing the number 1 defense in the league this week. And again, we'll get into the weird Sam Darnold thing when we talk about the Seahawks and what that means for this game. But for the 49ers, again, finish the season as the number 20th ranked offense or 20th ranked defense, and offensively they were surprisingly high. They were 7th in the league in total offense. But again, you take out so many of those injuries, so many now with the George Kittle thing, I just don't think they can hang with the other teams, especially in the NFC. But again, I thought, what is it? Somebody says the only thing you talk about is football on this channel. Not exclusively. I mean, it's mostly sports. That's why it's the only sports podcast. But we talk basketball, hockey. We're going to get more into hockey and basketball when football season gets closer to ending. But yeah, as of right now, it's all football all the time because it's playoffs. So, but thanks for the questions. So when it comes to the 49ers, they are dead last. The next up, I was really debating between, do I go with the Bears or the Texans as the second to worst team in the playoffs? And honestly, I think I have to go to the Texans because, again, the Texans offense is 18th in the league. But again, as of right now, that is, you have to split that number with Davis Mills, right? Because when it comes to CJ Stroud, he missed a lot of the season. He came back and looked, Casino in our TikTok said he looked fantastic. You go back and watch that game, which I went back and watched like the condensed version of it. He didn't look great. He didn't look fantastic. He just kind of looked like he was just, playing an average game with a really good defense, which is basically what he did. Because again, that Texans team, that game was all defense. It was all shutting Rodgers down. Didn't they get a fumble recovery for a touchdown and this pick 6 in that game? So again, CJ Stroud didn't have to do much, and he didn't do much. He was 21 for 32, 250 yards, 66% completion percentage, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He got sacked 3 times. He had a quarterback rating of almost 90. So again, I wouldn't say it was great. I would say it was good. He played a good playoff game, but really it was they played great defense. They controlled the clock. They ran the ball to the tune of 164 yards. So it's one of those things where if you're looking at this Texans team and the difference between them and the Bears is I know for a fact the Bears defense is just bad. We've had a whole season of it. They finished the regular season as the 29th ranked total defense in the entire NFL. And then in that first game against the Packers, again, the game ended with the Bears winning, but the game started for 3/4 of them giving up almost 3 touchdowns immediately. And then obviously the cardiac Bears struck again, came back to win that in spectacular fashion. But you look at Jordan Love in that game, he had 104 quarterback rating, 4 touchdowns, 323 yards. He only completed 52% of his passes. So half the passes he completed went for 323 yards, 4 touchdowns, no turnovers. So you can't look at the Bears and be like, oh, the reason they won that game is because of great defense. Like, no, that's not what happened at all. What happened was great, miraculous offense and one of the craziest collapses you're ever going to see in the playoffs, again, against a divisional rival. But I will give credit to the Bears defense on that, where even without receiving a turnover, I mean, they still gave up 100 quarterback rating, but it's just weird, man. It's weird. This Bears defense, again, the offense and defensive differences when it comes to what the Bears and where the Bears and Texans are right now, that is why I have to put the Bears down a little bit lower. There's 6 in total offense, but again, the defense is so drastically different from the Texans, who finished as the number 1 ranked defense. And offensively, the Texans are 18th. So Texans probably have the worst remaining offense in these playoffs, but again, defense wins championships. And actually, yeah, I would say just looking at the last 8 teams, I would say the Texans have the worst offense in this. They don't really have anybody offensively you fear, especially with Nico Collins. They keep showing him and Gonzalez just at the same time. So is Gonzalez the one with the concussion or is Nico Collins? I know one of them has like a leg injury. One of them has a concussion. So I know Nico Collins is one of the two, but he might not play. I'm assuming he does. So I will say it goes 8 49ers, 7 Bears, 6 Texans, because again, the Texans did finish as the number 1 overall defense in the entire league. They've only allowed 277.2 yards a game, which again, Jordan Love almost had that the entire, the first half of that game against the Bears. So those are the 3 teams on the outside of the bubble. And how I've always viewed the bubble is if things go perfect for the teams outside of the bubble, they could obviously win the Super Bowl because they're one of the last 8 teams in the dance to get the chance to be in the Super Bowl. And again, last week, everything went right for the 49ers. Didn't have a penalty till 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Whether that's because they're insanely disciplined or because, breaking news, or I don't know if I didn't see this today. Dags1879 says Scheffner announced Collins is out officially. Huge loss for them. Yeah. I mean, because you look at what the Texans offensively are, they don't have a lot of guys you're scared of. And again, if you're the Texans, you're going into Foxborough to play a Patriots team that just beat the ever-loving shit out of the Chargers and just knock them around. And again, you could make the case that with how banged up the Chargers offense is, they really don't have anybody you fear because you can't get the ball to any of them because of how banged up that offensive line is. So now the Texans offensive line, obviously better than the Chargers, but if nobody is out there you fear, then who are you scared to get the ball? Because again, Nico Collins would be that one player. And you look at what the Texans did last week in the run game. They had the marks go 19 for 112, 1 touchdown. He averaged 6 yards a carry. Again, that's against a bad run defense, a bad defense overall with the Steelers. The Patriots run defense, I don't know why Casino always acts like the run defense for the Patriots is bad. There's 6 in the league in total rush defense. So there's literally 5 teams better than than the Patriots run defense. So again, when you look at the Texans, they have Kirk, which if anybody has not seen the Stephen A. Induced highlight reel of the Charlie Kirk, where somebody took Charlie Kirk, put him in Texans games. I don't think it was just the Steelers one, and then made a highlight reel out of it. That's what the internet was made for. That is just fantastic. So Nico Collins, when he got knocked out of this game, had 3 receptions, 21 yards. So this game is going to have to be all Kirk in this game. So yeah, I just don't see how you look at this Texans team and you say, oh, yeah, they have no weapons whatsoever. CJ Stroud is okay. He's never been as good as he was his rookie year, where everybody thought he was, the second coming of Andrew Luck. But this has been by far his best year since then. And still, you go into this game just going, I don't know what I'm going to get from CJ Stroud. He's so hit or miss. He's so hot or cold that you really think it's the kind of Caleb Williams thing where it's like when he gets knocked out of rhythm, is he going to be able to come back? That's been the huge development for Caleb Williams this year is just, yeah, not only does he come back, he comes back stronger and then puts on basically a perfect game to win it every time. So that's why they're called the Cardiac Bears. But Game with Hotter says, I'm listening. I'm looking at TV. I always forget because I'm looking at myself on video. I always forget that the majority of people listen to this audio wise. So me and Casino will both try to do a better job of realizing this is a podcast audio first before it's video. But I just like making things to look at. So there you go. Relax and Talk Sports says good takes. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. And then Dags 1879 says those memes were hilarious. Talking about the what is it? The Charlie Kirk Texans edits. Those are good. They're really good. And Game with Hotter says I'm back. What's up, buddy? Welcome back. So now we have gone 8-7-6. Let's get into the 5 teams that I can legitimately see right now winning the Super Bowl, even if, again, 49ers, Bears, Texans, everything has to go right. In the first round, everything did for those teams outside of the Bears' first half. Everything in the second half went right for the Bears. Everything in the entire game went right for the 49ers. Either they weren't calling penalties or they're the most disciplined team in the league. Again, we're not talking about that right now. And then the Texans, again, they got to play a bad Steelers team that limped into the playoffs, and then they got basically shown why nobody viewed them as a threat, except I don't know if everybody listened to Monday and Wednesday's show, or no, I think it was last Wednesday's show. We had a huge Steelers fan losing his mind in the chat talking about, Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the playoffs, Steelers, all this kind of stuff. He promised he would come back no matter what happened with the Steelers losing, and now haven't seen him since. And I know he subscribed. So he is subscribed to this channel. He's probably listening to this right now. Where you at, buddy? You got to come back. Again, I have to do this show the day after the Eagles get embarrassed by third and fourth stringers in the playoffs. You could come take your medicine too. Because again, you were talking so much like myself. And then you got to come back. Again, this is not for me to make fun of you. This is just for me to, grieve with you. Both of our teams in Pennsylvania got knocked out. So there you go. But now let's go to the final 5 in the Super Bowl bubble, the teams I legitimately think could win the Super Bowl. And the way I have them kind of for people listening, I have the Seahawks on top, Bills and Rams at the 2nd and 3rd spot, Patriots at 4th, Broncos at 5th. I would like to say, that's how I view them 1 through 5, but really it was just to make them all fit on the bubble with their weird ass logos. You never notice until you're trying to, again, this is a very rare thing that only I apparently try to do, and whoever works for Colin Cowherd's image team, but you really notice how weird NFL logos are when you try to all put them in a bubble, because there's some facing to the right, there's some facing to the left, there's some that are really wide, some that are really vertical, horizontal, I don't know. So they're arranged not 1 through 5, just how they look nice on the bubble. So number 5, I will say, I think you have to put number 5 right now currently. I think you have to put the Rams in there. And again, the Rams have been everybody's pick or dark horse pick, or you got off them and you got right back on the bandwagon since last year's divisional round against the Eagles, because that was one of those things where 1 or 2 plays go different in that game. most likely that Rams team is going to the Super Bowl. I don't think that Commanders team was nearly as good as them being in the NFC Championship game would dictate. So I think the Rams beat that what is it? The Rams beat that Commanders team, and then it's Rams Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and then who knows, right? So I do think since pretty much this time last year, almost exactly this time last year, the Rams have been the perennial favorite to just get to the Super Bowl. And again, this year, no team has played the Rams better, maybe than any other team that has won or lost, split with outside of divisional games and all that kind of stuff. No team has played the Rams better than the Panthers. I don't know what it is about that Panthers team, but they just look like they were built and constructed to take on that Rams team. Even last week's game, again, me and Casino talked about it. Multiple times in that game, you were just really thinking to yourself, like, oh my God, the Panthers are going to beat the Rams again. Like, again, you saw, what is it? You're watching that Steelers Texans game, never, or even that Patriots Chargers game, never once where you were like, Chargers are going to win this or Steelers are going to win this. That was like complete domination. And again, the only favorite by 10 plus points in NFL playoff history was the Rams over the Panthers. So that was supposed to be blowout of the week, an embarrassing game. Everybody starts having their discussions about reseeding based on, the Rams having to travel to Carolina, even though they were the much better team. And again, that was close. That was close. Rams aren't number 5. This is from Nick Overman. Let me know who you think. What do you think? Again, in the comments below, these 5 in the bubble. So we got Seahawks, Bills, Rams, Patriots, Broncos. Anybody, let me know what your ranking is 5-1. I'll put them on the show. Nick Overman says, I got either Rams or Seahawks coming out of the NFC. Panthers actually have a good team. They just have Bryce Young and Canales. Again, I think they have a good team, and I think Canales is a good coach. Bryce Young, again, since he came back from Andy Dalton, they, went to the playoffs, and last year he was good. He was good. Studio Diz says, F the 49ers. Completely agree. Completely agree. We are lock and step on that. But as far as the Rams go, again, the Rams have just had a weird last month. Last month of the season, the Rams have just kind of fallen off. I feel like a lot of people just thought they were, the best team in the world, ourselves included. I'm pretty sure in one of the power rankings, I put the Rams as the best team. And then they had that weird Monday night game against the Falcons where, again, at one point in that game, it was 21-0 heading into halftime, and everyone was frantically checking out or frantically cashing out early those Rams to the Super Bowl parlays they put so much money on. And then Rams come back. If you think that's a Puka Nacua miracle catch on the sidelines, then the Rams probably win that game. If not, you're the refs who said it wasn't. So, yeah, the Rams basically almost just gave a game away and then kind of won it back. If they would have won that Falcons game, I feel like they would have even more hype going into the playoffs than they did. But before that, they won by 1 point, or they lost by 1 point, I'm sorry, to the Seahawks. They blew out the Cardinals in about a month apart. And then they had that, again, shootout with a Lions team that was kind of hanging. Remember, the Lions needed that Rams game or they were basically out of it. So, again, weird last month because it was since November 23rd is when they blew out the Bucks and everybody was like, this is the team to beat in the NFC. Because up until that point, it was like, is Baker Mayfield the MVP? Or the Bucks the best team in the NFL? And then the Rams went in there, mollywopped them 34-7. Everyone, including us on the show, were like, Rams are the best team in here. You go back and look at the rankings of the Super Bowl bubble that week. It was Rams were clearly number 1. Then they go to that Panthers game. The whole talk going into that game was Stafford hasn't thrown an interception. They don't turn over the ball. Throws almost 2 interceptions back to back after his first touchdown pass. And then everybody goes up, they're pretenders. And then they have a month where until that Falcons game, everybody was back on the bandwagon. So now you're the Rams and you just go, your defense isn't as good as we thought it would be at the end of the season last year. that last year I'm talking about, where it was verse and it was like, oh my God, who forget about what is it? Forget about Aaron Donald. We got Jared Verse now, and he was a menace in that Eagles game, and everybody was like, they get more pieces, get a couple free agents. This defense is going to be top 5 in the league. And then they've been 17th in the league, which again is right on the bubble for me. Speaking of bubbles, where you have to have a mid-tier defense to at least be a contender. So Rams are 5th for me because again, their defense of the four other teams in the bubble are by far the lowest, and it's right on the cusp to where I think the defense becomes problematic, like the 49ers or the Bears defense. Offensively, obviously they finished as the number 1 offense in the league. Even in the playoffs, they're actually averaging about 30 more yards. Now, obviously it's based on one game, but they're averaging 30 more yards than they did the entire regular season. So have the most touchdowns in the league scored offensively by far with 65. So again, that offense is electric. That defense is questionable. But again, if the NFC Championship game is Seahawks Rams, we've seen that game two other times. If it is the Bears and Rams this week, I really do want to see again, because the Rams defense isn't scary. So if it is a shootout, I really think the Bears might be the last team in the playoffs outside of maybe the Bills and just Josh Allen going Superman mode who can go toe to toe with the Rams. So, but again, then we have to realize it's going to be in Chicago. It's going to be windy. It's going to be snowy. So again, and apparently, what is it? Stafford is 1-8 in games that are, I think, freezing or cold or something like that. But he's 1-8 in basically bad weather games. So that has to play a factor, as it always does. What is it? It says, can you change the picture? All we're looking at is football teams. I mean, do you just want to look at it? Just be either my face or that? I feel like most people would say, here, maybe I'll just do it like that. So now it's bigger and the bubbles are going. The Patriots have the next Tom Brady. That's by Studio Diz. Maybe they do. Who is Studio? This is my son's room. That's why he has a Michael Jordan poster. He's got the best, what is it? Best computer in the house. Oh, because his name is Studio Diz. So you were asking who is Studio Diz. That's another commenter. 49ers don't have George. We talked about that. They don't have Kittle. Kittle's out. I would like to see Rams versus Patriots. So now this is an interesting thing, and I will go full screen for this. I was talking to a friend, I've mentioned him before on the show, who is a big Bills fan, and he was saying, now that your team's out of it, what Super Bowl matchup would you like to see? And I said, based on last year, my prediction was it was going to be Eagles Chiefs. And then it got to the AFC and NFC championship game, and it was Commanders Eagles, Chiefs Bills. And obviously he's a Bills fan, so he's freaking out that the Bills are going to go to the Super Bowl. A lot of people I know, including I think Casino, were really hyped on the Commanders going to the Super Bowl. And I just said, football never works out that way. We always get the fun, flashy, interesting new teams that just come out of nowhere. Obviously, with the Bills, they would have come out of nowhere as to go to the Super Bowl for the first time since the 90s. But I just remember saying, like, that's not how football works. We've gotten Chiefs 49ers 2 years in a row. We've gotten Eagles Chiefs 2 years in a row, not 2 consecutive years, but you get what I'm saying, like matchup wise. So then I was saying there's really only a couple Super Bowl matchups we've had before. And again, this feels like another time where if we put up the bubble where everyone's super hyped about the Bears. You know, I've heard a lot of hype this week about the Texans, especially after, you know, what they did to that Steelers team. So you look at these potential matchups, and again, everybody's going to be really hyped about the Bears if they beat the Rams this week. Everybody's going to be super hyped about the Texans because it's new, because it's different. But that's never been how the NFL works. Again, the outlier is that random year where we got Rams Bengals. That's the outlier. Usually what it is teams we've already seen. So again, the potential matchups would be what? Seahawks, Patriots. It would be Bills, or no, I guess it would be Bears Patriots, right? Those were the two teams that played in 1985. So Broncos, Seahawks, I believe they also played. And then again, Rams haven't played, or Rams and Patriots. So it'd be Seahawks, Patriots, Rams, Patriots, Broncos, Seahawks, just based on just that. No logic whatsoever, except how everyone gets hyped for these new teams in the Super Bowl, and it always just ends up being teams we've seen before. Again, I have nothing to back this up on except feel, and that's how I predicted last year's Super Bowl in the preseason. So again, do with that information that's really not information what you would. But this came from Cam Blue F21. I don't know. Sometimes you guys just have hard names. But it said, I would like to see Rams versus Patriots. That would be a good game. I do think Rams Patriots would be a good game. And I do think what is it? It would be a much different game than the first two teams. The first time these two teams played, wasn't that like a 10-7? That's the defensive battle Casino always talks about. I think that's one of the least rewatchable Super Bowls of all time, even for Patriots fans. There's no way that's your favorite Patriots Super Bowl when you have, the game they won against the Panthers, the game they won against the Eagles. Obviously, the Falcons game has to be number one, or probably the game with the Seahawks with Malcolm Butler at the goal line. So, you know, Nick Overman says, LOL, relax. He's not the next Tom Brady. Talking about Drake May, I would have to agree on that. Maybe we give him a little bit of time to, get to the Brady level before we put that much on a kid. That guy looks, I'm 35, about to be 36, and that kid looks like he's literally 16 to me. But Smallfoot says, please do it. I don't know what that's in. What is it relation to? Oh, people are just arguing in the chat. Guys, come on. Can't we all get along? But I know that the Seahawks are making the Super Bowl. So I would say, I think to continue the countdown, sorry, I got sidetracked by that. And now everybody's just fighting. Guys, come on. Let's get along. But so I had as number 5, I had the Rams for the reasons I listed. Number 4, I would say I think it's the Broncos. And I think it's the Broncos only because, again, they're 10th in total offense. Their defense technically is tied for first with the Texans. It's literally 1 yard separating, because total defense is by yards, not by any other metric. So total defense, the Texans are number 1. However, if you look at the numbers, the Broncos have allowed 6 less touchdowns. So what makes you the better defense? Allowing less touchdowns or allowing one less yard? I think we can all agree it's allowing 6 less touchdowns over a season's worth of football. So I will say Texans and Broncos, we'll just say they're tied. We'll say they're tied at number 1. So both of them have the number 1 defense in the NFL for the regular season. Obviously, the difference is that the Broncos offense is statistically better than the Texans offense, but also kind of reminds me of the Texans offense in a way, which is just, I don't know who their big go-to guy is in those tough situations. And again, Bo Nix, do you trust Bo Nix? That's the question, because again, he is just one of those guys that is so inconsistent with the games he plays. And especially this last month of the season, much like the Rams, the Broncos have just been in some ugly games. And again, we always talk about Drake May being the best deep ball thrower in the entire NFL. Bo Nix is by far the worst. His deep ball, it's not even like a 50-50 chance. It's like 1 out of every 7 times he throws it down the field, it gets completed. So I don't know. What is it? I don't know when it comes to Bo Nix, what we're even going to get. Because again, I just go back to that Christmas game where Bo Nix, playing against a Kansas City Chiefs team, had lost 2 starting quarterbacks, were starting a 3rd string guy who had never thrown a pass in the NFL. Bo Nix goes 26 for 38, 182 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Now everybody's saying, yeah, but that was still against the Chiefs defense. Like, that was clearly a game where the Chiefs had just given up. Never more evident than the fact that the next week the Chiefs lost to the Raiders. So you can't be the Broncos and say, what is it? Oh, well, the Chiefs still had a great defense when you got beat next week by the Raiders, who had never beaten I think they'd never beaten an Andy Reid Chiefs team. So when it comes to the Broncos, again, I'm also a proponent of, I feel like we see way more Super Bowl champions where it's just guys just keep playing in the playoffs, especially now that we've seen the round one, or I'm sorry, the round one bye just being for one team in each conference. So before it used to be for the first and second seed, but I always feel like those teams, if they don't finish the regular season with a lot of momentum, the week off kind of kills that momentum. Well, the Broncos now have two things against them. They finished with no momentum in the regular season whatsoever, and they got the first round bye. So now they're like two times negative momentum going into this game, which I know two negatives would make a positive, but you get what I'm saying. It would just be, what is it? It would just be so weird. It would just be the Broncos at home playing against a Bills team that, again, Casino, myself, and a lot of people who talked about football were all season, especially the last month of the season, talking about how the Jaguars were red hot. They were the scariest team in the league. And then look what happened to, what is it? The Jaguars. They got destroyed, not destroyed. That's a crazy word. They got beat by Superman Josh Allen, who went into that game, had an 80% completion percentage, basically controlled the entire game. At no point in that game where you were like, oh, the Bills are out of this. At most points of that game, you were like, how are the Bills not winning by 10 plus points? So yeah. Oh man, everybody's so arguing. Pablo Quartzen says Seattle is getting first rounded. Again, I feel like I can see a scenario where Seattle and the Broncos both lose in the first round after getting the buys for the first round, because again, I think momentum in football is a real thing. And both of those teams kind of just gave up the momentum again by choice, because you'd rather play all your home or all your playoff games at home, but still it's a real thing. Everybody's saying they want to fight each other. Darley Trifler 1431 says, I think Broncos are overrated. Houston wins. Now, this, I would be legitimately shocked if the 49ers beat the Seahawks. I would legitimately not be shocked if Houston beat Broncos, because again, I could see Houston upsetting the Patriots, and then all of a sudden you're in a AFC championship game against Bo Nix playing against, again, the number one defense in the NFL. But still, I think I would be more shocked if the, what is it, Broncos beat the Bills than I would be if, no. The most shocking thing would be 49ers beating Seahawks. So you get what I'm saying. Houston versus Bears in the Super Bowl. Again, that's what everybody wants to see. I just don't think it's going to happen. Bills versus Rams. I could actually see that. Raiders beat KC Chiefs on Christmas Day on 2023. But was that one of those ones where, wasn't that one of those ones where they were already sitting people? I don't know. I know there was a big thing with, what is it, Chiefs beating Raiders this time. It'll be Bears Texans in the bowl. As a Steelers fan, I don't care who wins the Super Bowl. Bills versus Rams. Hey, as an Eagles fan, I don't care who wins the Super Bowl either. So I feel your pain. Patriots are going to surprise people on Sunday. We are going to dominate. Again, that's why, perfect segue. Thank you so much. I think the Patriots would be third on this list, because again, I think when it comes to the Patriots, that performance against the Chargers, where that was a game where I feel like a lot of people were picking the Chargers in the upset because of the Justin Herbert and Harbaugh love pretty much everybody who covers the league has. And again, I've never been a big Herbert fan. That's a discussion you've heard before. But I really do think just how dominant that Patriots defense was in that game is kind of the surprise coming out of it, because again, defensively, the Patriots finished 8th in the total league, or in total defense in the regular season, which again, I feel like is actually worse than you think it is, because that's the 8th worst defense with the easiest schedule in the league. Again, it was the easiest schedule at the start of the season. I'm not saying they didn't play anybody. You only play who's on your schedule. A lot of teams played easy schedules and aren't where the Patriots are right now. So that's not the discussion we're having. I'm just saying the total defense being 8th in total defense with having the easiest schedule, I feel like makes that look worse, right? Because that Patriots defense is good, but are they as good as the Texans or Broncos or even the Chargers? I don't think so. But again, that's why I think that performance in that first game against the Chargers was so much more impressive, because going into that game, I didn't really have that Patriots defense as a legitimate threat like I do going into this game against the Texans. Now, that being said, I also don't think the Texans offense is very good. And as we discussed, they're not going to have Nico Collins. So who the hell are they going to throw? Who is CJ Stroud going to throw the ball to? I guess just Dalton Schultz and Christian Kirk 90 times a game, which again, that works for the Rams. Just pick two guys, get the ball in their hands, and let's see how it goes. But when it comes to the Patriots, again, Drake May led that offense to number 3 in total offense, the entire league. 58 offensive touchdowns on the year. He's in the running for MVP if he's not already going to be the MVP, regardless of how you feel about him or Stafford. It's one of those two. So Patriots, I feel like, have to be number 3. And again, they're also going to get a real, I do feel like their path to the Super Bowl could be the potential easiest if they go banged up Chargers team with no offensive line, Texans team with, again, great defense, nothing really going on offense. And then if the Bills upset the Broncos, they then get Bills at home, a team they already beat at home this season. So Patriots, dark horse to get to the Super Bowl, which I speak for all NFL fans who aren't Patriots fans, where I say nobody wants that. Nobody wants the Patriots to go from dynasty to 3, 4, 5 years of being nothing, and then all of a sudden they draft one guy, get one head coach, and they're just right back to always being in the Super Bowl. Trust me, nobody wants to see Patriots or Chiefs in the Super Bowl. I also think nobody wants to see the 49ers again in the Super Bowl, having seen them with the Chiefs recently. So Chiefs recently twice, but again, that's just me being a hater. But before you go on to the number 1 or 2, let's go to some comments here. So Adam J 1212 says Buffalo versus LA in a Super Bowl is what the NFL would love. I think, again, when we were talking about the Super Bowl matchups, I literally said, give me Bills against either Rams or Seahawks. I think that's the most interesting. I also think Bills Bears would be really interesting. I just don't see, that would be a distant third in what I think is going to happen. But yeah, I think Bills versus any of the NFC teams right now outside of the Niners would be fantastic. Prince family says, I don't believe in Josh Allen. He is the new Jim Kelly. He can never get the job done. Well, if he'd be the new Jim Kelly, he would first have to get to the Super Bowl. So save that take for if he gets to the Super Bowl and doesn't win it, because then I feel like you make that case. Adam J 1212 is back. He says Allen versus Stafford, money for the NFL. I do think if we look at this from the perspective of the NFL, what teams would they like in the Super Bowl the most? I don't know how you can't throw the Bears in there. Again, Chicago, one of the biggest cities in America, one of the most, feverish sports fan bases that are just jonesing for something. I feel like you would have to throw the Bears in there. And then the AFC, I feel like it would be, I really do feel like Bears Bills would be like what NFL is hoping for. Because again, they've been trying to make Josh Allen the face of this league for what? Ever since he stepped in the league, since his rookie season. I mean, every offseason, I feel like we get a new rule change that somehow benefits only Josh Allen, especially after the, 7-second game. But yeah. DAH Poet says Houston's going to need more than defense to beat New England. Completely agree. Connor Durant says Bills, Seahawks, Super Bowl. Again, I could also see that. Poet is back. He says New England at home in January, weather, big game changer. That's also what I'm looking at for the Bears, because that weather is going to be brutal. But again, I have no idea how Stafford is that bad in bad weather games when he played in Detroit for a decade and had to constantly go to Green Bay and Chicago, late during the year when it's snowing, when the weather's bad, when it's windy. And that boggles my mind. It also boggles my mind he only had to play in 11 bad weather games. That, again, that seems like such a low number, even though I don't know what the metrics are that we're, putting bad weather as. Gaming with Hotter says, I'm so mad. I'm assuming that's because there was fighting in the comment section. Sorry, buddy. We didn't want you to be mad. But Eric Helmdale says, Dynasty again. God, no. Please, God, no. It says, DH Poet says, we drafted more than one guy. Don't forget Gonzo. Patriots 27, Houston 13. Well, that's for this weekend's game. I was like, that can't be the Super Bowl. But yeah, I honestly, I do think that's a very reasonable score, because again, I do think Houston can and will score more than the Chargers. I just don't again, I just don't know if the Patriots can put up 27. I would probably say 21-13. But again, that's not a huge loss. Bills will lose this weekend. I'm assuming, Eric, you are a Patriots fan, so I know you're hoping for that. Yeah. And last couple ones right here. Patriots is Jim Kelly too. I mean, again, we have to see. Prince family says Pats 14, Houston 24. Oh, picking the upset with Houston. And then long one here from Prince as well. He says Matthew Stafford has a reputation for struggling in extreme cold with a historically poor record. Oh, that's what it was. Poor record in games below 40 degrees, often seen lower completion percentage and more turnovers, though. I'm assuming you got that from ChatGPT because it was very well written, or you're a good writer because that was very well written. Very well written, as I can't talk at all. But yeah, so what is it? So he's 1-8 when it's games below 40 degrees, which again, it's supposed to be very cold, very windy, potential snow game in Chicago, which I think snow games, this is my hot take for this episode. Again, we don't really do hot takes on this. This is my hot take. I think snow games are all hype and no substance. Because again, when you're watching a snow game, you're like, oh, nobody can really do anything, even though it looks really cool. Like it is when you hear snow game, every football fan gets excited for snow games. And then you watch snow games and you're like, oh yeah, this is awful. Like the offenses are worse, the defenses are worse, and it's just nobody doing anything, but it looks cool. So again, it's all style, no substance. And again, that is me saying that as someone who loves snow games like every other football fan does. But snow games are not good. Not good. If Stafford wins Super Bowl MVP and doesn't retire, he's the face of the NFL. But see, I don't think the NFL, and this is by Anisiamus 3194. But see, I don't think the NFL wants Stafford to be the face of the NFL because of his age, because he is going to retire. You know, if not after this year, next year, the year after, I think they want somebody like obviously the face of the NFL right now, who's Mahomes, who already has 3 Super Bowls and he's not even, out of his prime yet. So even though Stafford, again, still looks like he's in his prime or just hitting it, but the age thing is really going to factor in with that. So now let's go to the last two. The last 2 remaining teams are who I think this is going to be the Super Bowl matchup. Just looking at what the matchups are in the divisional round and just how everything's going to kind of play out, I do think it's going to be Bills Seahawks. So I do think the Bills right now have to be the number 2 team in this ranking, and that is with the number 4 in total offense for the Bills. That's what they finished the regular season at. And defensively, the Bills are number 7. So again, everyone is always talking about Josh Allen, James Cook, and that Bills offense. This Bills defense is one of the best defenses that Josh Allen has had since he has, ascended to top 1, 2, or 3 in quarterback rankings around the league. No matter, if you want to throw Stafford or what is it now, you want to throw Drake May in there, he's definitely top 5. Again, this isn't a Jalen Hurts discussion where it's like he's not even in the top 10. There's no argument you can make that Josh Allen's not one of the top 3 best quarterbacks in the league. Again, top 5 would be pushing it. Top 4 feels like the lowest you can go. So, and again, that depends on who your favorite team is. But yeah, Josh Allen, again, playing with the 7th ranked defense, the number, 5? The number 4 best offense in the league. I think, again, you look at Josh Allen's playoff stats, and they're remarkable. This is not a Lamar Jackson situation. This is one of the best postseason quarterbacks we've ever seen. His team just always finds a way to shoot itself in the foot. Again, you think of all those Kansas City games where they're 3-point games and somehow the Bills have lost all of them. So this year, no Chiefs, no Lamar, no Burrow, no AFC powerhouses outside of defenses. So again, I think the smart bet is to just take a quarterback who's been there before, who has kind of risen above the pack as just a great postseason performer. Again, the difference you can make between whether you are a Josh Allen guy or a Drake May guy is Drake May's first playoff game. It was fine, right? He played okay in that game. It's not like he's set the world on fire. Josh Allen, every playoff game he has played, you look at the numbers and they're astounding. So you want to do the regular season argument. Drake May clearly bettered this regular season based on numbers, based on either winning the MVP or not being lower than second. When it comes to Josh Allen, he's won the MVP. He won it last year. He's had great postseason performances. He's got a better defense than he's pretty much ever had. And so you also go, oh, well, he's also beaten the Patriots. He's been obviously the king of that division since Brady retired. Now I know Drake May, they split this year, but it would be the rematch where you're getting they each split a game. You're getting the third rubber match. So I have to go Bills 2, and that means Seahawks are number 1. Poet is back. He says, weather is calling for freezing rain in Foxborough on Sunday. Oh, that's interesting. So all these games are just going to be, well, also you look at where all these games are. I mean, it's going to be in Seattle, a notoriously bad weather city. It's going to be in Chicago, where it's going to be freezing, below freezing, 40 degrees and snowing with wind. It's going to be in Denver. So we have a potential to just see a divisional round with some of the biggest home field advantages weather-wise we've ever seen. Because, yeah, Chicago, Boston, Seattle and Denver? That is like across the board. There's not one good weather city in there. As opposed to kind of the flips, actually, because it would either be, if you flipped all these home games, that's interesting. If you flipped all these home games, it'd be LA, Texas, San Francisco, and then I guess Buffalo's the one that messes that up. But yeah, it would just be, I didn't say below freezing. I said 40 degrees. I caught myself. I almost said below freezing, but then I don't think it's 40 below. I think it's 40 degrees. But yeah, 40 degrees is freezing. I live in Las Vegas. 60 degrees to me is freezing. But I almost said below freezing. I caught myself. So nice try, buddy. Nice try. We just read that one. As a Rams fan, I want Burrow next year. I mean, Casino and I have been floating that he goes to the Falcons, but I think in all these fantasy trades for Burrow, the thing that gets kind of gets it where it's impossible and it just is fantasy booking is the money. I think there would be so much dead cap space for him. He's not going anywhere unless the Bengals are literally just like, yeah, we'll just pay all of his contract to get him out of here, which would never happen in a billion years. So I think sadly he's a Bengals fan unless he just rides out this contract and then kind of holds out. Poet says, I want the Bills. I agree with you. Matthew Medareth says, go Seahawks. And then every one of those teams won a Super Bowl except for one. I'll be rooting for the one team left to win a Lombardi. Well, on this list, it would also be the Texans. So Texans and Bills are the last two teams in this playoffs that have not won a Super Bowl before. I mean, the Rams, they've even won one in LA. So yeah, it's been, I think the longest would be it would be the Bears. So it'd be Bills and Texans haven't won one. Bears would be the longest. And then the other ones have all won one and then it would be 49ers because they haven't won one since 95. And then everybody in the bubble outside of the Bills have won one pretty recently. So Go Hawks. And he said, good call, my mistake. No, that wasn't your mistake because you were focused on the people in the bubble. So I'm saying on the screen, in the bubble, you're correct. On the screen, it would be Texans as well. So Poet says, I'm a Pats fan, but Mike Tomlin in Baltimore would be nice. Well, I think we'll talk about Mike Tomlin. Actually, you know what? We can do that right now. So that is the final Super Bowl bubble. Again, Seahawks are number 1 on top because I really like their home field advantage. I think that's one of the best home field advantages in the NFL. They finished the season as top 7 in defense, finished the season as top 6 in total defense. But if you look at all, the deep dive PFF numbers and all that kind of stuff, Seahawks clearly have the best defense in the league by every metric that isn't what they grade total defense by. Yes, they give up yards. They don't give up touchdowns. They only gave up 2 more touchdowns than the Broncos, who gave up 29. The Seahawks only gave up 31. Again, gave up 31 in one of the toughest divisions in all the sports, especially not all sports, all of football, especially this year where 3 of those 4 teams are in the divisional round. So Seahawks, again, the only question mark really becomes Sam Darnold. Now, an even bigger question mark after it's been revealed he tweaked something in practice. And now we have to wonder how much that will, I don't know, affect Darnold, who already wasn't a strong playoff performer. Now he's going to be potentially playing with an injury that he sustained in practice this week. But again, the Seahawks road to victory, especially against one of the worst run defenses in the league this week, is you have that two-headed back, you have those two wide receiver, or you have the big wide receiver in Jackson Smith and Jigba, do a lot of screens, hand the ball off to each running back you got, maybe 15 times each, and then just play good defense. Control the clock, do everything behind the line of scrimmage, dink and dunk your way to victory. And yeah, you get Sam Darnold. What is it? Another week of rest. You get home NFC Championship game again against either a Bears team or a Rams team with these huge flaws. A Rams team you've already beat, a Bears team where their defense is even worse than the 49ers defense that you're going to play right now. And obviously, if you win, it had to do with exposing that bad defense. So Seahawks, all they have to do is just beat potentially two division rivals to get back to the Super Bowl. So I feel like if you're a Seahawks fan, you're sitting pretty just going, you know, that the road to the Super Bowl is probably the easiest path we're going to get in a long time. So yeah. And again, all that's moot if just 49ers upset them this week. But yeah. So now let's talk about that, where Poet said, I'm a Pats fan, but Mike Tomlin in Baltimore would be nice. So since we recorded on Wednesday, it actually came out Wednesday night, that John Harbaugh, apparently he hasn't signed a contract. Last I checked, it's all just speculation, which also seems weird because, what is it? It has been reported that John Harbaugh, is just going to the Giants. But now there's all these reports. I was reading about it last night, and there's been even more reports this morning, where this was 44 minutes ago by Giants Wire. It says, power struggle preventing New York Giants from hiring John Harbaugh. NBC Sports, John Harbaugh still doesn't have a deal with the Giants. New York Post, Giants were not happy how Falcons handled John Harbaugh phone call during Furious Pursuit. So again, the weird thing about the Harbaugh thing, and I'll tie this into the Mike Tomlin thing. The weird thing with the Harbaugh thing is it was announced Wednesday, like it was Adam Schefter, breaking news, ESPN ticker. I was watching ESPN. I can't remember what game was on Wednesday. Watching ESPN when it popped up, and it was just, Harbaugh is going to be the next Giants coach. And again, that was Wednesday. So now it's Friday, and we're starting to get all these reports where it's just like, oh yeah, he hasn't signed a deal yet. People are apparently upset in the Giants organization about hiring John Harbaugh because they're giving him so much power. And now it's like, is he actually a Giants head coach, or is this one of those ESPN things where they just jumped the gun and now they're going to have to backtrack? And, Adam Schefter, who side note about Adam Schefter, always annoys me that he does like those, where it's on the NFL countdown shows or whatever shows he's on at ESPN, where he'll do the little camera zooming in where he does the little 30-second, tease or throw to commercial. He always has his phone in his hand. It's just like, oh, really? Like, you're so important that this 30-second window, you think somebody's going to call you and you're just going to break it live on the air? Like, calm down. Calm down. We also know, if you followed that story at all, with the whole how ESPN does that thing where it's just like anything goes to a reporter, that reporter then has to go to Adam Schefter. So he's like the face of NFL breaking news, but it's not like he breaks all these stories or anybody tells him things. Who tells him things are the coworkers who are basically forced to tell him things. Again, it's not like I'm a hater of Adam Schefter. That was just always a weird thing. And I saw that where he had the little phone and and it's just like, calm down, buddy. Like, you're not that important. And it's, again, you're not this beat reporter who's just tracking down all these stories. Like, you get fed all this stuff by your coworkers. Like, I'm pretty sure that's in the mandate to be a reporter at ESPN, but whatever. That was a little side rant that I just thought about. So Enjoy that. Now, when it comes to John Harbaugh, I think this would honestly be unprecedented if he is all in talks to be the next Giants head coach, and then due to front office, I guess the only word for it would be malpractice, he just doesn't get the job. And he just, what is it? It's reported he's the Giants head coach, and then they decide not to offer him a deal. And then how does that mess him up when it comes to, let's say he was going to go for the Falcons job, clearly would have turned them down to then go, oh no, I'm going to the Giants. So then do the Falcons, if you're the Falcons owner, if you're the Falcons front office, if you're the Falcons fans, are you just like, oh, cool, we got John Harbaugh even after he turned us down and then basically had to come back to us with the tail between his legs, but we still gave him all this power. Again, I think you can make the case that Giants and Falcons are kind of right there in terms of the best job opening, because again, you can say the Ravens, but for Harbaugh, he's not going to the Ravens. So it then comes down to the two other best options are, I think, what is it? Falcons, Giants, just in terms of talent. I still think Steelers would probably be my pick for the second best job outside of the Ravens, just for the ownership and for the job security. And just, they've only had 3 coaches since 1969 or whatever it was. So yeah, I think for job security, you'd go to the Steelers. For talent, you would go either to Ravens, which you can't go, or Falcons, Giants. So that'll be an interesting story to see how that progresses. And if on Monday's show, we just, Casino and I come on here and it's just like, oh yeah, Harbaugh's the new coach of the Giants, like you just signed a deal, then this will be a non-story. But if it's still Monday and this was announced on Wednesday and he still doesn't have a contract, I think that'll be, where there's smoke, there's fire. Now, as far as Poet says, where he said, I'm a Pats fan, but Mike Tomlin in Baltimore would be nice. That would actually be funny if Harbaugh gets rejected by the Giants, decides to go to the Steelers, and then Tomlin just decides, oh, hey, let's go to the Ravens. But I do think there's reports already out that Mike Tomlin is going to studio shows, right? Like I think the rumors are that he's already signed a deal with Fox. So what he'll do at Fox, I'm assuming he'll be, studio talking head. Maybe he'll do interviews talking about the league and stuff like, Eric Mangini does and all those Fox sports shows and stuff like that. So again, Tomlin, he's not very welcoming in those press conferences, but I feel like on TV he'd actually be good. He seems like he has the type of personality that would work well on TV. So I agree with Daniel Smith, who says Tomlin not coaching in 2026. I also think he's not coaching in 2026, especially with the jobs open right now and how quickly this Harbaugh thing was like, he's going to the Giants. I feel like we would have already heard, because again, when Harbaugh got fired, it was, or, stepped down, we immediately heard like, oh yeah, 8 or 9 teams have already contacted Harbaugh. We haven't heard nothing about Tomlin. So I think there was kind of a blanket, statement release to all the teams that opening, just being like, yeah, Mike Tomlin's going to take a year away, maybe 2 years, and just kind of do the Mike McCarthy thing, learn everything about football and then come back, or just relax with your family and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, there was another news story I wanted to talk about, but I think this show has gone long enough. And also, I can feel my voice. These solo shows are rough, man, because just talk the whole time. And then with Casino, it just, what is it? I get a break and then, I can rest the old windpipes. But whew, I'm struggling at the end here. So yeah, we're going to call it on that. Check out our YouTube, check out our shorts on YouTube, check out our TikTok, check out all our social media pages. I'll be putting up the predictions. Casino and I did the short form predictions for these 4 divisional games. Actually, right after this, they'll probably be up by it's 2. So yeah, the first one will be up by 2:30 till I think 4:30, whatever. So follow us on Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Now, audio and video are both available on the Spotify app. I'll put the video for today's show on that Spotify episode as well. And other than that, join us right here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 1 p.m. West Coast time, because as I said, I'm in Vegas. Casino and I will be back on Monday. It's always Casino and I on Monday, Wednesday together, and then me on the solo shows on Friday, unless sometimes Casino's on the Friday shows, but mostly it's me. So join Casino and I Monday and Wednesday as we discuss who's going to the Super Bowl, what happened in the divisional rounds, and then Monday we'll also talk about the college football championship game. So, going to be a good weekend in sports. We'll get out of here on this one. DA Poet says, got to make Tomlin the right offer and he will coach. Yeah, completely agree. I think it's honestly with the Harbaugh thing, it feels like it's always about the money and the power these guys get, right? They want to be able to, just have carte blanche to do whatever they want. And I feel like that's the sticking issue with what's going on with the Giants right now. But I'm sure that story more will come out. We'll find it out. So I've been Will. This has been the Only Sports Podcast. We'll see you right back here Monday. And have a great weekend. Have a great weekend of sports. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that kind of stuff. Adios.